Hello everyone and welcome to round 5 of the 2018 World Rapid Championship. Now, as you've seen in the previous video, Carlsen had a very unfortunate game and he actually lost 2 of the first games that he played in this championship. Then he won 2 games and then I was very happy when I found out that he was paired against Andrew Tang in round 5, as 2 of them played plenty of bullet games, plenty of hyper bullet games, and as Andrew's streams and also videos are all extremely enjoyable, and he will basically crush anyone in bullet. But every time he gets paired against Carlsen, or whatever nickname Carlsen uses for the tournament, he will always get really excited, and then I think he mostly always loses due to being overexcited. So I was very interested how will, as to my knowledge, this is their first over-the-board game. So I don't know. I was really excited to see how he would fare against the world champion over the board. And also, I don't know if I managed to mention this in the previous video, but I did include it in the description. I don't know how many of you actually read the description, but we will be having 2 days of rapid, so 5 rounds today, 4 rounds tomorrow. The games are 15 minutes per player, and you also get 10 seconds increment per move. And if there is a tie at the end of the tournament, and it doesn't matter if there are like 15 people tied for first place, only 2 people are get to go into tie breaks, and they will then play a series of blitz games with a 3+2 time format. So that being said, let's check out how this very nice game went. Andrew has the white pieces and he opens with d4. We have d5 and bishop to f4, the bishop's opening, or the so-called Mason attack. Knight to f6, and now we have e3. We have e6, and now comes knight to f3. Bishop to d6, offering a trade of dark square bishops, and knight b to d2. And here, while you can capture here on f4, I've never actually seen anyone do this. Similarly, like in the London system, you will always have this opportunity, but white will never be too bothered about this. You will simply play, okay, e captures on f4, and then you will have a very strong outpost for your knight on e5. b6, and we have bishop to d3. We have castles by Carlsen, and already on move 6 we have a new game, so not a very standard position. We have knight to e5, a pretty standard move, centralizing the knight, c5, and now comes queen to f3. Queen to c7 by Carlsen, and now c3. So Andrew has a very nice center here. The pawns are on dark squares. The bishop is very nicely placed here on the light squares. A nice attacking formation at some point. Maybe even h4, h5, h6 could even be played. Bishop to a6 by Carlsen, offering a trade of bishops, and you don't really have a choice other than to trade here. You can't go to c2, that's kind of going in line with the queen on c7, and if you go all the way back, then black is the one actually preventing you from castling. So bishop captures, knight captures, and now castles. We have queen to b7, and now comes knight to g4. You don't have the option of trading bishops here, because if you capture, then first white will ruin your pawn structure here in front of the king. Pawn captures, and only after queen captures on f4 will you have to worry about your king side weaknesses, but white will have a much better position. So after knight g4 we have bishop back to e7, and now comes knight captures on f6 with check, bishop captures, and now a very nice maneuvering move by Andrew, knight to c4. The pawn is of course pinned, as the queen on b7 is undefended, and the knight can now come either to e5 or even to d6 if needed. Bishop to e7 by Carlsen, taking away the d6 square now from the knight, and now knight is redirected at e5. And here seems to be one of those positions where it's actually okay to play f6, and Carlsen plays it, immediately kicking away the knight. We have knight back to c4, as this is still a pin. Queen to d7 now, getting out of the pin, and now comes knight back to d2, but now comes e5, and even though you can capture here, you don't actually lose a piece if you play captures. Now it seems like you lose a piece, but you don't. Queen e2 attacks the knight that is awkwardly placed on a6, also undefended, but after captures, queen captures here, you will capture here, and then the e3 pawn is very weak here. Bishop g5 can attack it. a much better position for black. So after e5, bishop to g3, and now comes c captures on d4. E captures on d4, and now e4. Carlsen manages to push this pawn all the way to e4. Queen back to e2, and now comes knight to c7. So the knight is now being remaneuvered back into the game. F3 by Andrew, and now comes f5. Carlsen still wants to keep the tension in the center. Also, if f4 and e3 can be played, it should be very nice for black. So Andrew first goes bishop to e5. Now this f4 will not come with an attack on the bishop. Bishop to d6, now offering a trade. We have captures, captures, and now comes f captures on e4. We have d captures on e4. This is now a protected pass pawn. And knight to c4. This comes with an attack on Carlsen's queen. We have queen to e6, and now comes knight to e5. And this is now a very strong knight. It's not yet a monster knight, as well. With some maneuvering, Carlsen can still maybe get this knight traded off for his knight on c7 in a couple of moves. But still an excellent outpost for the knight. Knight to d5 by Carlsen, and now comes a4. We have a5 by Carlsen and rook a to e1. So white's pieces are fully mobilized. Carlsen has yet to finish development, and his idea is bringing this rook to f6, maybe use h6 to attack the white king, and then the other rook will also come to f8 to be doubled up. But first king to h8 to somewhat improve the position of the king. We have queen to f2, and now comes rook to f6 as planned. If you go e3 here immediately, this is possible, but the problem is after the queen moves, you can go f4, and yes, these pawns are now very nicely advanced, but white can simply push c4, and now the defender of the f4 pawn gets kicked away. Knight e7, rook captures, and black's valuable pawns are getting destroyed now. So after queen to f2, we have rook to f6, preparing to double up on the f-file, queen to g3 by Andrew, and now comes rook a to f8. Queen to h4, and now queen to e8. And here, interestingly, it's Carlsen was down to some 5 minutes, and Andrew was down to less than a minute. And I know what you're thinking. Why would this be a problem for Andrew? He's basically every day he's below 1 minute on the clock. But it's different here. It's over the board, and you are facing the world champion for the first time over the board. The queen is now very useful in defending, as in some situations, perhaps if this rook would leave the 6th ranks, ideas like knight g6 check would be possible. But also the queen is now attacking the a4 pawn. So here Andrew decides to defend the pawn. He plays the rook to a1, and now the rook has left this e1 square. And the rook being on e1 was an essential part of Andrew's defense, as black could never really execute f4, as long as the knight is on e5, there is nothing to protect the e4 pawn. So you will never be able to push f4 because of rook captures on e4. But now that Andrew played rook to a1, Carlsen immediately seizes the opportunity and goes f4. And now this is already somewhat of a problem for white. We have knight to g4 attacking Carlsen's rook, rook to f5, and now rook a back to e1. Now if queen captures, of course you will trade it for the very nice central pawn. Rook to h5 attacking Andrew's queen, queen back to f2, and now the problem is you can't play e3 here. If you play e3, then you get knight captures on e3. And now all of these exchanges are impossible, because after rook captures, white will simply be down up a pawn. Okay, black can capture on a4, but you will not be able to recapture due to checkmate on f8. So after queen to f2, we have rook back to g5 by Carlsen. And now comes knight to e5. And now it seems Carlsen definitely blundered the e4 pawn, as there's really no good way to defend it. And here you could capture on a4, but as Andrew was so low on time, and it's not, well, what Carlsen played is an excellent move. Rook captures on e5 instead of going for the a4 pawn, so giving up the exchange. But after captures now, with less than a minute on the clock, Andrew has to deal with these two very strong pawns. Rook to d1, and now you still can't go e3. If you go e3 immediately, then you get queen to f3 with a double attack here against the knight, and e2 doesn't help you because of rook captures. And after pawn captures rook here, yes, you do get another queen, but now king captures, and the queen keeps defending the rook. The material is equal, and the white is all okay here. So after rook to d1, Carlsen instead of e3 goes f3, and when you see this with less than a minute on the clock, it's not at all comfortable. Carlsen is hoping for g captures on f3, and if this is played now, e3 is a big problem, because now you kind of have to go g3. If you go queen e2 to block it, then knight to f4 wins on the spot. After queen moves e2, you attack both rooks, and it's game over. So after f3, we have queen to g3 by Andrew, offering a queen trade, but first knight to f4 with similar ideas. Now, of course, if you capture, then knight e2 check picks up the queen. So here Andrew tries to set up a little trap. He plays a rook d to e1. Now knight to e2 check will be met with rook captures, and now again you cannot capture because of rook captures on f8 with checkmate. But here Carlsen simply played queen to c5, a very nice move that comes with check. The white king is in check, and also conveniently, if needed, the queen is also guarding the rook on f8. So here Andrew blocked, we have queen to f2, and here after f captures on g2, Andrew is in a lost position, but it was actually in this position that he lost on time, so his time ran out. Very ironic for this particular individual. But yeah, there's nothing really for you to do. You cannot move or capture with the queen, as the queen is pinned. You would have to capture, let's say, on c5, and then white has this nice Zwischenzug, or an in-between move, that is g captures on f1. This will come with check. You can bring a queen or a rook into the game, and after king captures, you will play b captures here. And you will just be up a whole knight, and it's game over for white. So yeah, after this f captures on g2, Andrew Tang lost on time, and Carlsen now, after losing 2 games in a row, won 3 games in a row. And before I forget, I did prepare this. These are the standings after round 5 from the chessresults.com. So as you can see, with 4.5 points, I haven't been able to follow all the games or most of the games, as there are simply too many players in this tournament. But I'm gonna check out which are the nicer ones, so I'm gonna prepare them for tomorrow morning, let's say. But as you can see, after 5 games, 3 of the players with 4.5 points, Alireza Firouzja, grandmaster from Iran, a very strong player. He actually won the tournament I organized for celebrating my 200,000 subscribers milestone on Lee Chess. Then Jan Nepomniachtchi, Dmitry Andreikin, all 3 of them with 4.5 points, and then Bazev German. It's interesting that Peter Leko said that although it seems that this gentleman is a very strong player, that he never heard of him. I myself also never heard of him. But yeah, I'm sure that we're gonna be seeing him a lot. As you can see, he's not even he doesn't even have a title. You can see that all of them have a grandmaster title, and he has no titles. But I'm pretty sure he's gonna get a title soon. Then also with 4 points, Shahriar Mamedyarov, Wang Hao, Gata Kamsky, Daniel Dubov, Alexander Zubov, Yu Yang-yi, Anton Korobov. I don't know if you remember 2 days ago, I mentioned that if you ever, because there was a position that I mentioned Korobov played against Ivanchuk and he won, that if you ever have a chance to check out a game by Korobov, that you definitely should do it, and very glad that he's up there with the leaders with 4 points. Then Boris Gelfand, Grigory Oparin, Sanat Yurugov, Peter Svidler, Nikita Vityugov, then David Anton, and also with 4 points, Marin Bosiocic of Croatia. And other players with 3.5 points, and so on and so on. I think Magnus Carlsen is currently at 76th place. But yeah, I mean, it's not... everyone is writing like, oh, an unbelievable, terrible start for Magnus Carlsen, but it's not that unbelievable. Even though he is the best player in the world, he's not blunder-proof. I mean, it happens to everyone. So at some point in some tournament, you cannot win all games. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. But yeah, we'll see how it goes, and definitely if you have any games from this tournament that you yourself enjoy, use the hashtag suggestion, and we're gonna check them out. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. I again invite you to join my subscribers video. The link to it will be in the description below, and the email you should use to send me your videos and photos will be right below that. And also below all of that will be a link to a very, well, peculiar YouTube video. that I invite you to check out, as it's I'm very interested in what your opinion is about it. I will put it in the description under very peculiar video, so feel free to check it out. It's very short, a minute and a half. But yeah, I really do hope you enjoyed it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon with some more content from the 2018 Rapid World Championship. Thank you all, and I'll see you soon.